Yeah, go for it.
Turns out I have 40 gigabytes. Okay. Um, issues still not there, driving me mad why it's taking so long to do something that should be simple. Lost a chunk of time due to life situation on Tuesday, and then lost a bunch of time to a really stupid error that was a bug in Fly. And it turns out that that bug, let me show you. Just I know that it's just nice to relieve some
No, no.
fucking pissed offness.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about. Well, it's not even confession, is it? It's just rage.
Rage,
Minor,
rage,
minor, minor micro
rage into the
rage.
night. I wanted to share all the ports because I had an example of an agent that was spawning a web service, and it would pick a random port, and some of the ports were up at like 49,000 whatever, and then the proxy wouldn't work because it only did up to 30,000, yada yada yada, right? So I'm like, okay, start port 1024, in port 65535, very well
Partial
known as the
range.
last port, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you do that, it turns out Fly will not proxy anything at all, will give you no errors, and will fail to complete the SSL handshake. So you get no logs, no signal. You haven't, because it broke at the crypto layer, you don't get like like nothing happened from everyone else's point of view. Nothing happened because the crypto handshake failed.
What the honest fuck? I mean, that is a valid port range.
There's a valid port range. At the very least, I would expect more of an error. Like, it deploys fine,
Yeah,
it works
yeah.
fine, everything's fine. All the other services that are sitting on that same machine, going through the same proxy, they're all fine.
And
But
it
if
just
you add a
ghosts you.
1 to that number, the whole thing just ghosts you, and it doesn't crash, it doesn't error. And so I was like, what the hell? And so to figure out that
It
it
must
was
be a.
that.
Oh, you got asked them for a bug bounty on that one. Because
Yeah,
that
I
sounds like
thought
a
about it,
vulnerability.
and then like the pragmatist of me was like, no, it will cost
Yeah,
me 5 minutes to file that, and I'm
yeah.
through it, and it's a like,
Did you tell them?
no,
Oh, there must. That's a.
it's
That
a stupid
reeks
fucking.
of a vulnerability. That reeks that you
You
could do
reckon
something with that
you could
because
fuck with
it's
that,
on
eh?
these edge cases that you can really fuck around. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, because that's the overflow number of 16 bits, and so, but yeah, all right, I'll tell them. But man, that cost me time. It cost me like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, because it was.
Wow, this is where Codex falls down because how would it be able to guess it?
It wouldn't, eh? But that's the so where we would win with that is we are trying to build a platform that Codex is aware of. This is an issue where it goes into the black box of some other platform, and then you're like, no one has a fucking clue in there. Like,
Hmm.
the fact that I could solve it was like, I was like, that's, you know, yeah. Anyway, so that's that.
This is a really important insight, I think, about the limits. If you black box something, you don't let the LLM have a look inside your black box,
Yeah,
then there are vulnerabilities.
no
There
one,
will be.
right, and no one can help you. So
Yeah.
what you gonna do? But so where we're at is this: the I'm learning the lessons of the limits of coding with the LLMs, and I've
Mm-hmm.
had to go through and clear out like some big chunks of code where the code worked and the tests passed, but the code had become so bloated with stuff that was correct, but just ultimately didn't need to be there. And the burden is I have to read it and understand it to understand that it doesn't need to be there ultimately, because It's like reading a
Um,
huge block of text. It all
I'm
sounds good.
I'm assuming you did this, but surely a prompt like here is the code base. I want you to redact it. Your goal is to reduce the number of lines without losing
No,
functionality.
because the issue I've arrived at is that I'm trying to implement the reading the config from agent.toml, and because I don't really 100% know how that should go, that's why I'm still fumbling. And so the machine for sure will be fumbling because I'm not sure what I want to tell it to do. Yeah.
What was the bloat?
Well, some.
I'm just curious because LLMs have not, I think, been trained on being parsimonious in their code
Nah,
because code is free.
that is 100% going to be a prompting thing.
Yeah. You need to have some kind of runoff where you run it a few times
So
and the winner is the fewer lines of code.
right, but then there's also like having a go at it multiple times or from multiple angles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That would also work. Yeah,
there's strategies in there for sure. Like one single run is surely not the best. Like you really want it to, like as we know, the flop is best in terms of correctness, ingenuity, and all
and
that.
downstream understanding as well. Yeah,
But then, so you want to go flop, and then you want to go polish, like redact, compact, reduce, search for alternatives, and all that. And so you
yeah.
really need these, like a deck of cards where you just go ding, 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 and deal a bunch of cards out. We kind of want things to run in the background.
That's actually quite. That might be a surprisingly gnarly problem.
That's what I'm starting to get nervous about, buddy. Like, there's a lot of gnarly problems in this agent to agent structure that you can't see from afar, but now that we're approaching it, it's like, oh fuck, man, there's actually like some hard things in there.
Yeah,
Some things that can't have an answer, that need to have a like an empirical measurement done that's live all the time. And
yeah. But
there's this funny dead zone between where we can get to the point where we've got some bots that can implement new strategies and test them unaided versus where we have to do that by hand. So we have to read white papers and understand how to implement the techniques that the cutting edge is releasing so that we can then benchmark them and figure them out. And that's going to be quite bumpy.
yeah, I mean, most of the cutting edge at the moment has got to do with resolution loops where they essentially iterate against some kind of metric. But what I'm thinking is, what's the metric for good code?
There are several. There are some very good sets of rules or heuristics, but ultimately, what you want is you want to. Every time I go in there and hand correct, that should represent a lesson to the LLM. It represents a signal of a preference that I want.
Right,
And
right.
the change is more important than the code that resulted. Like if you just showed it the code that I liked, that's not as valuable as what I changed it from.
So if we were to show those edits as exemplars where
Yeah.
it has failed, someone's had to step in.
Yeah.
It should weight those quite heavily.
Yeah. And so what we got to be we got to subtly be careful to do, and I think it fits well into our model of like doing a commit every time the agent finishes. Like that's the only way that the agent can show you what it's done is to do a commit. That means that we've got the commit, and then if you hand edit it, then that's valuable information because that's like even more information than your prompting that you're giving the agent. That's actually like very
Yeah,
precise
yeah,
correction.
that's real training. In that you're wrong, bad bot,
Yeah,
do
yeah, and
this.
so the theory is that we can go through and learn from those, so that the code coming back, like, I think it's a folly to try and make the code come back correct like that first pass, but definitely like solve it any way you like. Then when you think you've got a solution, run these heuristics through to try and reduce it down and make it palatable, manageable, tasteful.
How would you prompt that? So, if you're to allow it to flop, say if you just give it, I want to write this app.
Yep,
Here's an app,
yep,
and it produces that app with like 100,000 lines of code, which is horrible. And
right.
then you go back to it with, you need to specify why it's horrible, not just because it's aesthetically horrible. Um, because
I
it's
don't
not
think
going to
you
get.
gotta say. I don't think you gotta say why. The fact that you trimmed it should be enough to work on for the bot to guess at why.
Ah, right. So what you're saying is you could go
Here's an
in
example.
and hand change and then say, these are the sort of changes I want
Just
you
commit it.
to go through the rest of it.
No, you just commit it, and then there's a background thread that's looking for what did master do? Master edited this file. Why did master do that? What can I learn from that?
Oh
So
yeah,
here's
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
on
yeah.
the left, all the red is what I deleted, and on the right is what I added or left behind. Right, and so there's like
Whoa, that is the bonfire of the vanities. Look at that.
big chunks, right? And that's the thing. Like, a lot of the time, it's not wrong what it was doing. It's just lacks vision.
Yeah, or parsimony, or finesse, or there's a number of. I mean, coding is both engineering and art.
Yeah, and it was never
Um,
really given the chance to try and fix all this. It was always, this code was made as a result of maybe half a dozen to a dozen different separate tasks that it was trying to achieve with this code base. And so it's not really prompted to try and cohesively as a whole unify it. It's always just trying to get the current job done, which is sort of like, whipping a coder to just get it done. And then eventually you get these, yeah, it works, yeah, it passes, yep, all the typing's correct, all the, there's no mechanically detectable errors, but it's become convoluted.
what's your view about whether this will be solved in, say, GTP 6,
It,
7,
it,
whatever?
it can't be. This is one of the fundamental problems of knowledge, because the bot can't do what the bot wasn't trying to do. And so even a human, even the most skilled human, will still take a couple of passes at the code, and then they'll throw it out. They'll come in rough, and they'll come in. And then, like, the other issue is, as the requirements change per iteration, the code also warps for different reasons. And so there's no
Mm.
way to have, like, I am detecting a fallacy that you and many others seem to have, is that you imagine that as the bots get better, these kinds of problems get absorbed by them, but they cannot. This is the type of problem that
Well,
cannot.
no, no, I get it. Remember, I used to talk about the edge of chaos where humans were forward looking and bots, by their modeling nature, are always backward looking. They can
Right,
only see what they've already seen.
right. Um,
Um,
but
so,
I guess that's not my point either. My point
mhm.
is that there are these problems or errors or issues in code that appear like they're gonna always be there, and the only way you can reduce these is with background threads, background tasks that are working away separately Like, the curse of the bot is that it has a job to do. The bot is not permitted to sit there and ponder and wonder about maybe this code could be better somehow. Maybe the requirements are wrong. Maybe, like, it needs a dedicated task to tell it to do that with prompting and lessons and all that. That's why this code sucks, is because the bot had a job to do, and that
But
job wasn't
it's
parsimonious pondering.
kind of interesting because Codex is not single shot. It's got the router and it's got its
That's right. That's right.
supervisor.
But it's I guess it's a single purpose. Like, it does what it's told. What else could it
So
do, right?
it's happy when it's good enough, but not great.
Well, it can't be great because you can take multiple good enoughs that touch the same code base will result in an overall not good enough, even
Well,
though each
yeah.
individual thing.
Yeah, the reason I'm laboring this is I think this is actually quite interesting. Um, Previously, I've been expounding the virtues of Monte Carlo, but if the Monte Carlo is just comparing a whole bunch of good enoughs,
Mm,
then it's just going to come up with an idea of what a conglomerate of good enough is. It's
right.
never going to do what you're trying to do there.
No, no, but you can, I believe, prompt it to run in the background and to try and achieve this in multiple passes. So I'm thinking that the lesson is that we learned very early that multi-step reasoning is superior. But
Yeah.
there's also a new thing that's formed, which is multi-path is superior. So an agent that's told to do a simple thing, 10 agents that are told to try and solve this problem, a second agent comes through and tries to holistically compress, or like a janitor, like there's these roles that start to appear where no matter how good the model is, it cannot get it right in one go, because the job is to get it done in a couple of goes, and that produces waste or noise or
Yes. But
disturbance.
also, what's lacking there is a head mark. Essentially, we're sending a whole bunch of bots into a dark forest and saying wander around and come
Yeah,
back to us
correct. But it's also
whenever.
not sure. There's stuff like, saying, oh, you should spec first and you should talk to the bot to spec first, but that's just not always feasible. Like, the truth is, in this case, the spec was unknown. This was part of an experimental effort to discover the spec. And
So, go on, go on.
and so there are some principles of multi-agent systems that are the first of all not obvious until you get into it. The second of all, if people are studying this stuff, it's not making the front pages. But there's some foundational stuff here that is never ever going to be solved. Like, it's a glimpse into what the bots can never do. And it says that multi-agent, multi-role is the only way that autonomous systems are going to produce any kind of knowledge work that's useful. You need a janitor. You need something trying to make a spec all the time. You need
Okay. Can you take me through your process? So on the left, lots of code. On the
yeah.
right, far more parsimonious code. What were the decisions you're making there?
Well, I was looking at, like, oh, what does this do? Okay, I got to trace that down. Where is it used? It's used down here. Why was that used? Okay, that was trying to do apply rewrite. Okay, that sounds like what I need. Okay, this thing I don't need to have it give these two variables. I can just make it be a single thing. Oh, and then I'm like understanding why, uh, why did the bot need to make several functions to do something that I thought was a single function job? And then I realized that the key oversight of the bot, I'll show you if you don't mind. I think you'd find this
Please
interesting.
do. I'm fascinated with this. Yeah, I think we're getting to ground rock here
Well, it's
somehow.
quite good, right? Because if we understand something that's inevitable, so the main point of that file I showed you was to process this file, which is the codex config file.
Yeah.
But I've put some special markers in here that need to be replaced because I don't know what these values are until it gets deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the reasons why the bot had, in my opinion, convoluted the answer is because these keywords are a simple string replacement. They exist within two quotes, and I can just swap it out for the string that I want to put in there. Done, right?
Yeah.
But notify is meant to be an array. And so the array, if I just swap this out, it just comes in as a string. So it needed to swap out. Its approach was, I'm going to swap out the whole line.
And then I had to parse it into an array.
And then I had to pass it into array, and then I had to check this other thing, and then, right? And then I'm like, and then I come in and I'm like, well, hang on. What if, like, there's an extra space between the thing? Like, so yeah, basically I realized that I could make it generic if I told the bot to consider the quotes at the same as part of the replacement thing, and that works for if you're doing a string, but it also works for if you're doing any other value, not just arrays, but further values. Works as well, so long as you consider the quotes as part of what you're replacing, and then you can access that code.
Which is the heuristic. Which is that always true? Is that universal, or is that true in some circumstances?
I don't think it's foundational enough, not by half, to say always. That's just an example of what I would say is being a good coder, when you can spot the similarities between these things and they cause a complexity collapse, where you're like, first of all, you have to look at it and suspect that you're like, that instinctively seems over-engineered for what I'm trying to do. Okay, I don't know how you get that into a bot. But once you have got it, you got to look at a couple of examples and try and find the commonality between things that are sort of the same but different enough that they're not the same, and then come up with an idea that is like, oh, this is right, this is how we're going to unify these things.
So what we could do, give me a pause. This smells very much like expert systems and heuristics. And what you don't want to have to do, because the failure of expert systems is experts don't actually know, are really rubbish at articulating exactly what they do. They just do it because it's,
That's what they do.
So yeah. So what you want is, as you're saying, the times that you have to step in and edit it, you want some background process going, oh, maybe there's a heuristic here.
You want something in the background that's often wrong, mostly wrong, but is endlessly trying to come up with ideas.
Occasionally a diamond, yeah.
Occasionally it causes a collapse, right? And it should look at it and come in and be like, maybe this is over-engineered. And it almost doesn't matter if the thing is or it isn't. It's just like building up a knowledge base of things that it spotted that it knows are over-engineered, and then it's going to just try each one. And I really don't care how much time it wastes because it's got all night, right? When I come back and it's like scrunched down one piece of code like that, I'd be pretty happy. I'm like, good job,
What's your
buddy.
feeling? Are these heuristics universal or are they
They're not. They're not.
stylistic?
They're wildly stylistic. They're unlimited. They're unique to the particular problem you're trying to solve. They all have the same similarity about complexity reduction, but there's I don't think there'd be any point in trying to catalog them because they're just
But you
there's
want to
always
capture
new
them, right?
ones. Yeah,
Yeah, but you want to capture them.
you do, but you could probably capture them when you found one. But I'm not sure that having the exact example would capture the principle
Well,
necessarily.
bingo. That's the whole point, isn't it? I'm just thinking if um, we get a large enough number of coders having to step in, making a change, and improving their code, and going, yep, and that comes into let's call it a heuristic um, pile, and then a bot tries to extract the fundamental principles of coding from that because I'm not sure that the training data has really captured those principles
I
because
don't think the training data can. Like, it's not. That data is not in the training data.
yeah, oh, it's got a
Like,
whole
that.
bunch of examples and some bad, some great, but
Yeah.
usually the
I
great
mean,
ones are a very small number, and then
look, no,
the
I mean,
shitty ones are
you
lots.
probably could find it by looking through Git commits, where like a pull request came in, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's so much better," and it like wipes out a bunch of code and puts in something that's sort of more elegant. So probably it is actually out there. But what I'm starting to think the model for um, multi-role coding is that the agents need to, instead of just trying to solve the problem, they need to mark when they hit a decision junction where they get somewhere and they're like, oh, I could, at this point, I could do these several alternatives. And
Oh, that's interesting.
instead of picking one, they would do them all. And at the very least, they would have them written down. So they're like, that's a low probability, medium probability, high, high. So I've got two highs, a medium, and a low. I'm going to fork here, and I'm going to go down both of the highs and see what I can learn down each one. But it
So
allows backtracking.
that's I'll come back to backtracking because I'm not entirely sure what that is yet. But that sounds very similar to the translation app, where there are
Every
idioms,
app,
there are
I think.
nuances,
Yeah,
and so on.
every
That's
single
nice.
piece of knowledge work, I think, has that thing. And the issue that I'm not seeing in the way that agents reason now is the lack of backtrack. And even if it sort of manages to do a pseudo backtrack, it's not a complete backtrack where it rolled back all the context and everything back to that point with the simple marker, do not go down this path, here be dragons, go down the other path. And so if we can make a multi-agent system that is designed specifically to treat knowledge work like a traveling salesman problem, where you're trying to find not the shortest path, but the path with the best outcome, like that becomes and you don't know all the paths, you don't know all the cities, you know that they branch from each other. You're not sure which is the right one. The current model of agentic coding is to just the bot picks one and goes down it. Or let's say you've got 20 steps between you and the end. Even in online codecs, the answer is we're going to send 4 agents down and see what happens. Now, you can end up with 3 of them go down the same path, and then the other one goes down a slightly better path, and you like that. But the real thing you want to do is you want to know that you got the absolute best path of all those different options. And if you're not specifically treating the problem like the traveling salesman problem, you'll never get that. You'll get this almost like a
Yeah.
right.
It sounds like what was it called? PN hard. It sounds like a PN hard.
NP hard, you mean?
NP hard. Sorry. Yeah. Um, hmm. I'm not adding complexity into this, and I'm not suggesting anything to
Well,
this. It sounds like a quantum thing, isn't it?
nah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a combinatorial problem, and
Yeah.
a combinatorial problem is very doable when the numbers are small, and that's what it feels like in coding. Because if you just sort of smudge over what I could exactly type, and to do that, it means like definitely don't try do nice variable name rules here. Don't do like syntax layout here. Just flop, and close enough is good enough. And we're really talking about the high level prompts. So you'd almost like translate up into prompts where you're saying what you're gonna do, and when you hit a junction point, that's simply a distinction between 2 different instructions that you're about to follow. So you take a little bit of time to write down what you're about to do, and then consider all the possible instructions you could give yourself.
That still needs, so that sounds a lot like how chess AI was written, 30 years ago,
Right.
where you were essentially searching a tree of possible outcomes.
Hmm.
Now the key to that was to be able to weight each one. It's like, why is this one better than the other one? Which comes back to
Right.
how to define it.
Well, yes and no. See, the issue with the chess game is that you can't play it again once you played it. But with the code, like, you could always choose the top 2. Like, every time you got to a branch, you could always choose. At the moment, the bot is doing it by just choosing the top 1. That's
Yeah.
that's happening right now. And all
Yeah.
I'm saying is that what should be happening is you should be thinking about it as a journey through the knowledge landscape, and there are clear decision points where you can decide something, or you can spend a bit more time to figure out which way you could go at this particular point.
Well, exactly. So if you think about this as a search tree, essentially what we're talking about, a whole bunch of possible solutions.
Right.
And each point, the search tree needs to weight. Is this better? Worse? In order to do that, you could simplistically have a coin toss. That one's better. Or you could add in heuristics, fewer lines of code.
I think we could implement it quite simply, actually. So you know how Codex has this plan tool where it makes a plan and then works through it and crosses it off. We could add another tool that was similar, that was just called the alternate paths tool. And then each time the Codex agent put something in the alternate path, it sort of caused itself to fork and go down each individual path.
Yeah. The thing with that is the combinatorial explosion piece.
It's not that high, and you can control it. Like, you can be like, well, don't have more than
it comes with search depth, isn't it? If you do just one level, yeah, you could probably do that. You go down 2 levels, it's like 3 levels, is like, whoa.
Well, no, that's not. What you're saying is correct when the paths are not being walked by an intelligent being, when it's just mechanical or machinery. But what's going to happen is you're going to do those first 4 paths, and then you're going to, you a lot of the time you'll be able to eliminate at least one, just from that experience, you're like, oh no, this is a bad
Well,
idea.
that would be a good heuristic. It's like, of your choices at this level, throw out the one that's obviously shit. Get rid of that.
Yeah, like
Um,
it's not like yeah, so I guess you could do like a depth first search, and then at least you've got an answer, and all you're doing by backtracking is coming up with hopefully a better answer.
yeah.
Um, or you could say that only when the options feel quite tied, like like it's not clear which is the best. You don't have a strong
Yeah,
opinion on
no,
what the
there's
best
something
one is.
here, man. There really is something here. Right, say if we did bread first, and we only allowed three options at each point. Um, so you go, yeah, okay, right. Assessing this on some way, it comes down to the point where there's diminishing returns. It's like I don't need to go any deeper than this because I'm just like shaving hairs off this.
Yeah, but the key is
There's
that
something here.
each agent needs to share what it learned in a way that comes back and sort of compares all the paths. But deeper than that, we need a way for the agents to record what they learned. Like they went off, they did something, and then now they know something that they didn't know before. That needs to be recorded somewhere. And there's like I don't know why I keep seeing papers now that are popping up with ways to do that sort of thing, like ongoing memory extraction, storage, and retrieval, so that the agent is always storing information. There's another article that came out about how you can make the agent continually be fine tuning itself based on positive or negative experiences from when it was doing stuff.
Right,
Right?
right,
These are
right.
obviously the ways that the future has to be.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but it doesn't excuse anyone from the fact that agentic role planning is a starting to look like a bit of a fucking behemoth of a subject that we're only
It
really
does.
just fucking scratching at, because
I mean,
human organizations, right? Mountains of books have been written about how to organize humans.
yeah, I know you're right.
Right. And that might be this kind of problem that we just sort of fucking bumped against. So we're like, oh, that's easy. We'll deal with it when we get there. But it might actually be one of these problems that
it's
can't
a
ever be
fascinating one.
right.
And one of the problems back in the day when I was doing expert systems, the problem was you could get, let's call it an innovation in one of the branches. That would be very useful to the other one that got
Right.
a bit stuck.
Right.
But there was no easy way to, get these branches because you're just assessing the branches and going, which branch is right? One is going to be right. I'm going to choose one. I could
Right.
do a coin toss. I could do something else.
Right.
But what it didn't do is allow something that was obviously better in another branch to populate
Yeah,
a separate
that's one
branch.
of the keys. That's one of the keys, right? Is like every branch along the way, if it has something noteworthy, needs to broadcast to all other agents. Hey,
Right.
did
And
you
that's
know
that's
that?
where that's where expert systems fell down because you couldn't do that cross poll.
Right. So the
All you're
broadcast,
doing is searching.
the cross
Yeah.
team broadcast is like, well, that's interesting. I found that if you do this and this and this, and then it's like it gets sent out to all the running agents, but it also goes into the knowledge bank to be hauled out later.
Right, right. And that knowledge bank would then presumably inform another run. It's like, I'm going to do three levels, bum, 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 bum.
Hmm.
Right, I'm going to assess these. That bit, that subpart of this solution is good. This subpart of this solution is good. Put that into the knowledge bank. Let's rerun it,
Hmm.
sort of thing. But I think you're right. I'm not pretending to know the answer to this one, but I think you've discovered the question. Quite an interesting one.
It's a big, like, that's gonna be a big fucking problem.
because otherwise everyone's getting excited because the frontier models now code better than any other coder. But what you're saying is no, they really don't. They're
No, what I'm saying is they never will, because
yeah,
it's not
exactly.
about being better than a human or not. It's just saying that the nature of coding, it's something about the nature of a shared code base. When the code base persists between runs and you have multiple highly intelligent agents cut a path through the code base to achieve something different, you will get perturbance between the paths they ran that needs unification, that creates a third problem or a third task that needs to be reconciled and balanced, and that any of those agents, no matter how good the model is, it's almost worse the smarter the model gets. It will be
Hmm.
aware of options and it will be forced to choose. And it
I've got
shouldn't, because you don't
look.
know.
Sorry, mate. Can you give me
Sure.
1 minute? I've got a knock at the door,
All
but
right.
I've got a really interesting, well, hopefully interesting thing to say
Okay.
about that.
All right.
Okay, back.
Yo.
Sorry about that. Just real world for a second. Um, is there? This is speculative. Is there something to be said about seeding a little chaos into the prompts, as in not the same prompt, because then you could,
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of a search, you could allow iterations Darwinian style.
Yeah. That is true. That's just another technique, and like I'm saying, I think the problem is framing itself as this explosion in possibilities for the way that which we could use a multi-agent system. You just named another one, but what I think, the only dry land in this ocean is the ability to rebuild the whole project from scratch based on a seed prompt and get the same answer, say, 10 times. Like, if you've got agents that are working towards that goal to reduce the spec down so that all the goals that you've been iteratively discovering, uncovering, and putting in there, each time a new one of those, a new rule, a new requirement, a change, a bug gets made, the agents try to rebuild the whole base from this base spec, and they keep pruning the base spec and rerunning it so that you can get the final output reliably from the minimum amount of information, right? The issue
So we're
seems to
talking.
be that the solution, there is only one smallest solution, but the more you allow a size multiple on the minimum, the greater the number of solutions, and it gets radically big fast for only a very small multiple. This I think is the this 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 point is a long way off, but it seems like the only stable point that you could possibly get to in swarm coding.
There would still be a local minima, though.
No,
Um,
the local minute,
Once
yes,
you
but
assess,
the local minima is the product. Like that's the done thing, right? Right now we're stuck in this world where the software output is the product, but
yeah,
actually it's the prompts that made it that are the product. Now, the current techniques that I'm applying make it impossible to extract that out because I came at it with multiple different prompts over time. The code base was in different states.
well, that's not very fair on the bot. I mean, the bot's going to be all over the place. What you're
Well,
talking about is trying to converge on reduction of variance on output given a prompt,
no.
and be able to
Uh,
rebuild the entire code base from that. I think.
yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
that bit, yes, yes. So you can't ask the human to know in advance everything that the human wants. That's part of what
Yeah,
we do.
yeah,
It's the value
yeah.
we bring. Like we can work with incomplete stuff, but the only way that you're going to have the prompts in any kind of meaningful form is if work was expended to get a single seed prompt that when run in a clean environment produced a suitable outcome based on all the little picks and angles and sniffs and scratches and hand edits and all that went in. Like that's your compiled prompt code. That's
No,
the seed.
I can see a solution for that because you measure on variance and run multiple times, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
that variance is the goal. It's like
right.
reduce that
And
variance.
once you've achieved a prompt that has very low variance and gets the right answer every time, that's your seed.
Right, and now that prompt and the context which you give to that prompt is kind of baked, isn't it? At that point, and you want to change that, very sparingly.
No, well, changing it is what software development becomes because you change the output that you get from it to make the output patched or modified to meet your new goal. And then once you're happy with it, you say, okay, reverse engineer the prompt, and then it spends a lot of tokens to modify that seed prompt just enough that the new change is now part of the seed output with no variance.
Yes. Again, that would still fall foul of the local minimum,
Well,
without any.
who cares? Like the local minima
I
is
mean,
good.
good enough is good enough, right?
You're
Yeah.
trying to you're almost trying to hit the local minima. Like you want,
Well, a local minimum is a nice place to be because
yeah.
at least
Well, right
without extra
now
energy, you can go anywhere else.
you're in nowhere. You're everywhere right now
Yeah,
with
you're in a
this
flat
model, right?
plane. You're in a
Well,
flat plane.
right,
Yeah.
and so like any minima would do. Absolute minima is like, well, the only way you're gonna get to absolute minima is when a human comes in, pokes at it, some bugs are found, and then a patch is applied, and then you go to reverse it back, but it won't quite go backwards, and then you end up with like an avalanche type of situation where suddenly a big change happens, and then you're like, here is a radically changed seed
Right
prompt,
now, you're
but it,
you're up over the hill, and it's like,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
way
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah. But that is like that's not something a human can achieve. Like that's a multi megatoken burn that only bots can really have that type of characteristic because of the sheer labor involved.
Well, and also the search space, the topography of the search space is too massive for
Yeah,
anyone to actually state what it is in advance. They just
yeah.
say
And so
go north or go south. and see if
That
you is
that
this
seems
better.
hard to do that thing, but it seems like the only point of sanity or stability that we're going to get in the software world, because it cannot be about the finished software anymore because the prompts made it. And I've lost the prompts. Where the hell are they? Or they're so cataclysmically just in disarray. What meaning could I extract from my conversational history that went into building this piece of code, right? Worth it's almost negative value, because to look at it is to confuse yourself.
But also, what you're adding in changing prompts radically from one step to the next, you're adding in, not you, but you know, in the process, adding in a great deal of chaos. So it's somewhat unfair for it to be moving towards any kind of acceptable local minima without staking the prompt in the context. And the prompt in the context, if you rerun it and nothing changes, don't mess around with anything, then you can look at a variance. That variance will come from the model. So, okay, we've got one idea of variance. When we're talking about multimodal, then we can look at the variance between them, but we can also compare between them and see if they're converging or diverging. I'm not entirely sure how this helps us right now, but this is
Uh,
absolutely fascinating.
I think what it says to us is that we just hit an iceberg, and it's
or a Nobel Prize, one of the two.
I
Um,
I don't think Nobel Prizes are going to be worth what they used to anymore. But the the situation it leaves us with is to say that multi-agent coding feels like it's got a lot of headroom, because what I'm trying to say with these examples I've given tonight is that it is the only way to achieve good quality code is to be multi-agent. And then what else we're saying is that the number of ways that you could do multi-agent are like wildly varied, and so it's almost going to become a discipline. Like, it's not about context engineering, it's about multi-agent engineering, or
but also there's
parallel AI processing or something.
yeah, I mean we can throw as many tokens as we want against it because tokens are cheap. But there is a quality uh, with a capital Q to what is the best local minimum. And that, I think, has got a lot to do about the judgment of the person who's um,
Mm,
prompting it. But what you said about 6 minutes ago was really interesting, in that you fix the prompt, and what you want is to rerun the prompt and get the same answer.
yeah,
And if you don't, then it's the prompt that you change, but you
yeah,
get the AI to say, how could I change this prompt in
yeah.
order to get
Decrease the
this straight
variance.
answer?
Mm.
That feels like that is something quite profound.
Seed
That
programming.
look,
That's what that is.
yeah. I don't know. Is that a thing? I've not heard of that thing, or
I
just
made it
have
up.
you just made up? Yeah,
I
made it
made
up.
it up.
It feels like it should be a thing.
Yeah. Seed
Um,
engineering. Like,
yeah,
because if you think about how to make an actual seed of a tree, surely the seed building was harder than the whole damn tree. Like,
yeah, yeah, by far.
right? Like the
You know,
seed,
the seed took billions of years, and the tree only takes a couple hundred years. You know.
and like, yeah, the tree's glorious and looks cool, and there's a bunch of ways you could do that. But if you also have to fit it into a seed, then you're in trouble. Like, you have a very broad search space to cover, right?
Yeah. It's oh God knows what the number is, but it's going to be large, right?
It's going to be larger
Um,
than the number of trees you could make if you didn't have to deliver them as seeds. Now, what that also means is that when I look at nature, um, it never ever comes up with a brand new thing. It starts, so this program that I have here should have been started from a very simple seed that did only a little bit, and then it iterated on the seed. You know what I
it's
mean? Like
the seed's the thing, isn't it?
the
The
seed
thing.
can't, you can't, like to go from the state of this program and try and generate a seed back is insurmountable, I think.
Well, yeah, but yeah,
But
it,
to go to take like one
by
seed, so,
definition, it is almost. Uh, this is why it is literally impossible to figure out why an LLM has given you the answer because the number of possible paths that you would get to that answer is so massive that you can't compute. You can't
mm.
compute that.
But if you started with a little seed where you're like, make me a web server, and then it's like, thinks a lot more than it would to just make the code because it had to make the seed, and then it's like, here's a seeded web server, and you're like, excellent. Then you're like, make it do auth. It's like, well, bang, right? And now you've got this seed that reliably from just the seed prompt produces every time the same output program that passes the checks, does the thing. And then you tinker with it and you're like, oh, I don't even know what I did, but I changed this thing and now it works how I like. Seedify it. And so long as you're moving the seed only a little bit at a time, it's a surmountable problem. And so you can get to a complex thing that's still seeded. And yeah, there's tactics like, okay, we're going to fork the seeds. Now, this is the seed of uh,
Right. Yeah, it
you
seems
know, like,
self-evident, doesn't it?
so like you end
Um,
up with the same modular landscape that you do in current code packages, but instead of a package, you have a seed and a release. A release is when new changes have been made and implemented and a seed solution has been found. So it's not enough to just have the thing work. It has to be recompiled from seed.
oh, here's an interesting thing, and we might be going into fairyland here. Um, the seed is fixed. Let's just say, for
Yeah.
the sake of this argument, the model or the model that you choose to run it on is not fixed, and it gets a certain
I'd
result.
assume it needs to be fixed to get
Uh,
a good result from,
Now,
but
models are inherently um, diverse in their answers because
all right, well, let's assume that
they're
anyway so that
not
we can.
deterministic. Um,
They are
uh,
deterministic, but you can
but
control that.
okay, you know what I'm saying.
I
The
don't get what you're saying,
LLM,
but let's carry on.
right? Giving an LLM different parameters. Well, let's take this analogy of the seed. Right, you plant a sequoia seed in one place with lots of sun and water, another place with lots of sun, no water, another place with lots of water, no sun. They'll have different outcomes. But the interesting thing is the results can be fed back into the seed because that tree will either grow up stunted or grow up tall and hale and will produce seeds. There is something about what you're saying, focusing on seeds, that needs a feedback loop from what happens when you use the seed on different LLMs. Does that make sense? I'm not entirely sure I explained that as it was in my head. I'm kind of looking at that tree over in the corner.
Yeah. Look, I don't. I think the whole area of seed exploration is open enough that there are.
Well, we're not going to solve it this morning or this evening, your time. Um, but I think this area that you're highlighting is something that's worthy of looking at. Not
Well,
at
I think okay. So
data.
are we saying then that the agreement is that multi-agent swarm coding, where seed is just one technique within that, that
Mhm.
is really the future of all AI human interaction. All AI systems must be swarm, and that the topic of swarm engineering appears like we're really just scratching the surface of an incredibly deep topic. Does that sound right?
Yes, and also I'd add on because I really like your concept of seed engineering. I think that's got legs.
Right, but that's just simply a yeah, I love it too, but that's really only possible by swarm engineering anyway.
Yes, that's the way it's expressed. Can we get some of this output to think in the background and say, Maxwell, you're talking shit?
Yes, we can. But I'm dying, man. Like I'm fucking this system should be working now and then I could move on to this cool stuff.
This
Like
is very cool, what I'm seeing on the screen at the moment.
right? Like look at it compared to first of all Nova 3, but GPT-4 Mini, it's like, well, the turn taking sucks.
And right, I'm going to talk and you talk over me and let's see how it gets on
Well,
with
I
the
never talk
transmogriff.
over you,
So
do
I'm
I?
going
Because I
to,
actually have
yes,
like
you really do.
I'm actually no, I
And
have good
sometimes,
manners.
good
Okay,
man,
out here in the
you do.
colonies.
Yeah. How did it do? Oh, no.
I
No.
think it's because like because it's going over the computer I'm at. The voice volume that you have is very low because it's coming out of the Quest headset
Oh, but
speakers.
that could be sorted, surely. So if we had two fluxes going,
No, yeah. How it should work really is that we both have an individual like a puck or a device or the line in on our meta headsets or something that's just picking up our voice clean and then
yeah,
it's doing the fluxification of it. But like look how clean the transcript is and the turn detection is fucking spot on.
I know. And if I were to talk about Beetlejuice and Beelzebubs, I'm sure it would get it. Let's see.
You were talking about Beetlejuice
Beetlejuice
and
and Healthy
Beelzebubs.
Buds. Okay, so uh, Beetlejuice the star is what it's really talking about. Still Beetlejuice. Maybe it's my accent.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Um,
so I was just trying to break it.
so the point that they're talking about is they're like, there was some great sort of tactics. Um, no, I lost the quote they had, but they were basically saying that the automated speech recognition is flawed when it comes to doing agentic interaction because it loses the nuance of turn. Turn detection needs to be part of the understanding of the model, not just something you try to detect using sound engineering. Like it needs to be semantic.
Yeah, that does make sense. Are they doing anything with intonation? Or is
The
that
whole lot.
beyond?
Yeah, I'll show you. So if I talk and then I want to hold the session open for a long time, I can either like just pause and it
Oh,
knows,
that's nice.
but I can like if I make a tone or a noise, it definitely holds the session open. But also, if the words make sense for me to have pause, then it holds it open too.
Does it have any kind of idea of train of thought inside of this, as in my train of thought? So if I'm talking about one topic being train of thought, that will be um, uh, pausing on purpose here. A section of thought that we can then pipe that through to a background agent and say, okay, so
Yeah,
finish
so
this
sort
thought.
of, yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot too lately. What you get, see the signal here where you get eager end of turn
Mm-hmm.
right there. So sometimes um, eager end of turn can be used to trigger partial processing as well. Because we're getting the live transcript, we can also look for like a full stop, and we're like, okay, like we can be feeding this stuff off into the background reasoning agents continually. Each time there's like a sentence end or an eager end of turn, and then when there's a real end of turn, we're like, go. And then in the background, it's like hauling ass through all of our stuff, and giving us, like I imagine these things over the side here are like streams of ideas or pictures or topics to help us, so that as we're speaking, it's like, you know, helpful
Yeah,
stuff. I mean,
that would make you feel like an absolute genius. And Nova 3 and GTP 4 are real sluggards here, aren't they?
yeah, well, they're kind of hampered significantly by the turn detection mechanism that each of them has. And
Yeah,
the
I mean,
the
what is have tuck taffning?
well, see, yeah, because the issue is that, see, if you watch how the words morph within here, because it got to hold the turn open longer, and it was closing the turn at the genuine end of turn, it knows that the words altogether need to make sense, and that's why it can sort of, you can see the words change as it realizes a bit more about what each one probably is, because it managed to hold the context.
Does it go back over itself and think, actually, I got that wrong because now I understand more about the context of the conversation?
Only within the turn that it's in here, and it only seems to be maybe for the last like two lines or something. But
Okay.
you could easily imagine a system where we could look at things like when you were getting bitter juice instead of Beetlejuice, because the output of the system is showing the word confidence. So here it's like confidence of the word. Um, what you can do with that word confidence is then run some traditional transcription on it with the temperatures turned up to try and find out what else it could have been, plus use a reasoning model to try plug it in. And then once you've got all that, you can stuff it into the keyword prompting. So you can add words to that it always gets wrong, you can correct it. So
Right.
what this
But
really
the
opens up, sorry, go.
no, I'm getting quite excited about this because it seems to have nailed transcription.
Well, it's
Um,
more than transcription. It's nailed turn taking.
yes, yes, precisely. Now, with that, when did we first talk about this? Must have been a couple of years ago. Having an AI that is listening to you and politely tapping you on the shoulder and saying, you may want to consider this because I
Yeah.
found this in your emails from 6 months ago.
Yeah, well, this gives us that because, first of all, the fact that it tells us when the turn ends means that we can take the pure recorded audio and reprocess it, because we've got at least a turn, a cohesive atom of meaning has entered our system. We can then grind over that to extract out more meaning from the sounds within the snippet in case there were some errors. But yeah, like each time there's a full stop or when the turn ends, that's when we're going off in the background and retrieving information out. But the system I want to make with this, which is what drives me nuts with why this damn thing's taking so long, is I want to use this turn detection to tell GPT real time when the turn is up.
And uh, implication of that. Are you looking for the next turn to be an agent?
Maybe, but like, because I like talking to the voice agents sometimes, but I hate that I need to feel rushed into finishing my sentence, or I hate when it barges in over the top. But using this system, like this system picks up my voice so naturally. Like I've played with this a bit, right? And I have not faltered when it detects my end of turn. And so if because I like the GPT real time voice, I just don't like its turn detection. Just using this to then take the transcript off to our agent swarm whilst letting the GPT real time start talking in its very, soft, lovely tones is a that's 99% of what I want out of a computer.
I think there's something here. There's a definite application. I agree with everything you said, and I'm actually quite excited about it. But also, there's additional information that is lost by tonality. If I were to say, "Hey, sunshine," or "Hey, sunshine," there's a lot of information there.
So so long as we can figure out the turn taking seems unaffected by that intonation, but if we can use the turn taking to then get these snippets of audio that we can pipe into things like Hume, where it can score text to speech, voice design, voice cloning. No, there was another one there.
Ah, right. That's exactly what I was talking about. So, because we've got turn keeping that can be trusted, presumably that comes with timestamps in the JSON, and we've got the audio. It would be a matter of code to slice the audio and put it into an expression model and saying, "Are you angry?"
Yeah, like you could get more emotions out of it.
Mm.
You could get
Oh, that
more,
seems a lovely project. That's brilliant. I love
right?
that.
And then it's like, oh, you've been stressed, Dave.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I just really need this system going because I feel like I can't move forwards without this. Um,
Well, once we've got it, and I mean, the lion's share of the work is on your shoulders, unfortunately, but I'm very eager to get my turn, as it were, or for you to get into
oh
the
man,
prompting
all I
space.
want is end of turn.
Yeah. But as soon as we got that, then this would be a great app
Mm. Well,
to put together.
yeah, I mean, that's like the starting thing, right? Because this is how I want to interact with my computer. But shall we? Uh, can I? I don't really have any more technical stuff for you other than to bitch. I think I've passed over my lessons that I've learned from
No,
coding.
we've done a kind of deep dive into some quite esoteric topics here, most of which we can responsibly ignore for now, but they're
Yeah,
worth noting.
I think it means we've got a future basically. Like if we get into the AI coding space heavily,
This is
we'll be safe. Like that'll go on for years. Like it's huge. It may be bottomless, but it's huge.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's
okay.
also nothing. I've not seen any white papers, and I spend most of my days looking through white papers. I'm not seeing anyone really looking at this this idea of convergence on parsimony of code, for example. bringing out what you're talking about, in terms of heuristics into, okay, so here's how I like things to be done. Here's better or worse, but I don't want to have
Yeah.
to write them. I don't even want to have to think about them. You
Yeah.
detect them and you
Yeah.
grind in the background and detect them for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've not seen anyone write anything about that.
Yeah. Oh well. So look, the thing that I wanted to bring up, which is off topic,
Uh-huh.
was politics.
Okay.
Because
I've not seen any AI politicians. I was thinking about that this morning. All this chat about America become more as an autocracy. I was going, well, why couldn't they put an AI in charge?
right, but have done work for political parties in the past to help with their campaigns.
Yeah, I never knew that. Buddy.
And one of the big problems is effectively data mining, like finding who your constituents are. The biggest problem of all is convincing them to vote and getting them excited about voting or committed to voting when honestly there are no good options.
There's never a perfect option. It's always about trade-offs.
It's not about
Politics is
no
about
perfect.
trade-offs.
Like it's always like the worst options. And so what you end up with, so sometimes like over in Sweden you had the Pirate Party. In New Zealand we had the Internet Party,
I
which
don't know about either of those. Are
well
these actual political parties?
yeah, the political parties, and they formed around the notion that the internet should be more widespread and the government should promote the internet more. Now,
Right.
if you turned
Single
up,
issue kind of guys. Okay.
well, yeah, but it was more like a rally point for we need more technology.
Okay.
So if you had a politician who was like, I am AI native, I use swarms of agents to calculate the best possible outcome of all these policy decisions. I can process, using these tools, I can process 100 times the communication bandwidth of my peers. But in order to do X, I need law Y to change. And so if we get voted into Parliament, we can AIify a chunk at a time, and you, the constituency, are able to use your AIs to connect to my AIs to guide or tell me what, together we'll figure out what the best thing is using these machines.
Let's pause on that one. Mm-hmm.
And so one of the problems with finding voters is data profiling. But if they sort of found you, right? Like if we made these assistants for people and the assistant was like listening to your problems all the time and you're like, oh, I want this, I want that. And then at some point it's like, you should run for parliament. Or you should find someone to run for parliament that will agree to do X. And then the real thing we're trying to get going with this social network is a social network of concierges that get together and go, look, my guy, he wants this. Your guy wants that. We've got 100,000 people here that want this thing, and we know that we could get it changed with this much effort, like several months worth of effort in a parliament. So why don't we lobby on behalf of these people to get this thing?
Can I? This sounds like a rabbit hole, but it's really not. Last night, Jude made me watch a documentary about the paramedics. It was in the south of England, and they have targets which they consistently don't hit. I mean, they don't hit by like.
What's an example of a target? Like,
a
don't let this
target.
person die.
If you've got a heart attack or a stroke, they're meant to be there within 17 minutes, I think, and typically it's within 2 hours,
Ooh,
2 hours to 30 minutes.
ouch.
Now,
That's not a
I
great.
got really angry. I don't get angry very often, but I got angry at the TV last night because it seemed such a solvable problem. Because this is a system engineering thing. Um, so the problem ostensibly is they don't have an ambulance to send. Why don't they have an ambulance to send? It's because ambulances go to A&E, and ambulances are, stacked up. You go to an A&E in this country and you see, like, I don't know, a dozen ambulances just sitting there. Why are they sitting there? Because they're not being admitted to A&E. Why are A&E not admitting them? Is because they can't admit them. It's not about the number of doctors or nurses. It's about they need beds to put these people out into. And so if there's no beds, then they're stuck. They have to just stop, and they can do things on A&E, but they can't move people on, and so they can't accept new people, and so the ambulances move up.
Right.
Why are there no beds? There's no beds because eventually you get put off into social care, or an old folks' home or something in the community and so on, and that's underfunded. Now, that to me, the reason I got really angry is it's like, give me like 6 months and two or three smart people, we could solve this. But they haven't solved it because each are siloed, and they're siloed because of different laws. This act is how paramedics work. This act is how A&E needs to act. This act is, and so on.
Right.
It
And
is
so
simply a
what you'd
system
really be
problem.
saying is like, here's a problem that you really care about. Here's a solution that an AI system has worked out with the actual data, with as much of the official data as we can get hold of, and it looks like this fix will solve it. The reason why it's not being applied is because of this political problem. If you
Yeah,
vote for this person, or if we get this already in power person to agree, we can get this solved. So it's sort of
right.
like how we talk about using this system for class action type stuff.
Yeah,
But Parliament is really a big class action. It's not a lawsuit per se, but it sort of is. And you just got to get a large number of people on board.
yeah. It's crowdsourcing, judiciary and parliament and so
Yeah,
on.
but
You're
it
basically doing that.
saves it overcomes one of the big burdens of political change, which is that like people are muppets, and the Muppet at
But
the top
also,
is not
uh,
terribly smarter than the Muppet at the bottom.
I would agree people are Muppets. But also, I think the corollary of that is law is intensely complex. And
It's
so,
programming language.
yeah, and similar to what you're saying before, it's like
Yeah,
we've got these bloated laws, and if we change one part,
yeah.
then it's like, what's the knock-on effects, and
Yeah,
am
you
I
get these
going to
bad
lose my
outcomes,
seat?
right?
And yeah, exactly.
And like the thought of reseeding a law, like rewriting a law from scratch, is just like, forget it, buddy. Like the chaos that you'll cause will be too great. But an AI system could probably handle. If we can get seed engineering going for code, you can get seed engineering going for law, where you can get like massive overhauls of legislature that you're like, no, we've run every
Well, this
case
this
that this
this
would
is
have
exactly
affected.
why. Yeah, this is exactly why I got so angry because I was thinking, how would we do this in AI world? I'd put in each of the applicable laws and give it the problem, prompt it for the intent, which is let's increase or decrease the amount of time an ambulance takes. And there's this whole chain. What parts of these laws or these guidance do we need to change in order to make that happen? If you make it very permissive, um, I swear I could do this in like 3 or 4 days. But actually doing it um, has failed this government for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, so it just makes me wonder if like And a young up and coming politician or someone who wants to be one might be a good market for tooling where we're like, look, this is an adaptive system. You don't know what you want. We don't know what you want, but we know that we can adapt to meet it. We all want a more logical, well thought out, more nimble, cost effective government, don't we? How else are we going to get it other than these swarm systems?
Wouldn't that be a thing though? If you got a smart person and um, one of these AR glasses, link it up to a system here that background grinds through everything they've said in the past and all the legislation and everything everyone else has said, and then stick them on a TV interview. How smart would they be?
You'd be a genius. You would be an absolute balls out genius.
Yeah. And nobody could bollocks you with ad hominems or
Stats, your stats would be wrong. Like you could correct your own facts. Like you're like 25% of ambulances. Oh, wait, sorry, 22.579.
Right.
You know,
and that person, because the AI capability, and also you could even publish your personal data provenance. If you're a public figure, here's everything I've said.
Yep.
And
yep.
Here's all the sources.
Yeah.
If you want to run your own glasses, you could pretend to be me and see what
It seems like that person would have an easy life because they'd sort of all they'd have to do is know how to work the AI system and know how to think laterally, and then the AI handles all the mundane, boring, toxic, touchy stuff, like people being a smartass to you, or you asking for your policy on this, that, and the other thing. You'd really just be the spokesman, like Gabriel in Mission Impossible. You're just the spokesman for the AI because you're just like, well, let me think about that, which means let my machinery kick into motion, and then it comes out and you're like, yeah, maybe, maybe this, maybe that, but you know what? A better idea is caravans for the ambulances, because you could have the Dreamcatcher running there too, where all these ideas for how to solve a problem are being generated by AIs plus humans, where it's trawling the net, pulling in answers and suggestions and things that have worked in other places. Anytime, instead of commissioning a government report, you're just like, we're going to do some deep research. I'll get back to you in about 20 minutes.
Wouldn't that person be really remarkably effective? It's very similar. You see the parallel with what exactly your argument about code, where the person has a judgment call in this and can be refined and so on. Same would be for any knowledge space, I think.
For any any proposal, anything, like you could on the spot work out all the costs. So you could pretty much run for a parliamentary seat and you'd just make a lot of sense because you could poll the internet using deep research to figure out what people want to hear, what people are concerned about, and then do the research on what's actually doable, and then narrow that down with things you actually care about, and then you're like, right, well, this is how, this is what we're going to do.
Right. Now, imagine, we've been talking about one politician doing this. Imagine two with different, sides of the aisle, one left, one right.
Right.
And now they are arguing on the substance and their judgment and not doing the thing that really does my head in, where you ask a politician and they answer a different question because you're not entirely sure, or you're not on top of your brief, or you don't know if this.
Well, you have to, because till now the only way for them to know was manually, and that's a lot of work. and it's
Yeah.
hard, and you got to be real smart.
Now imagine like 600 politicians with this on. Wouldn't that be interesting what would emerge from that? Different judgments, different flavors of the political aisles,
Yeah,
but
different
the same facts.
different constituencies, so different echo chambers and
Yeah,
groups, but
yeah.
you've all got well reasoned, well budgeted things, and the AIs have considered alternate views. You don't have to be open minded. Your bots are.
Right. But the what the bots are telling you, you don't have to just speak back verbatim. You go,
Yeah,
no,
you think
actually, I'm
about it.
gonna spin it this way and or that way. I want to,
Yeah, but you
make,
kind of you want to change it to be so that you're positioned that instead of it like being me the politician versus you the people asking the questions or the interviewer, you're both consulting the bots, and it's really a discussion about like, well, what can we get this AI system to come out with the best answer? Like, so we're all sitting there using the
oh,
system as
so
opposed to,
you're thinking, let's get the repos from all 600 politicians and then get the bot to say, okay, on balance, this is probably, with this confidence, this is what you should do. This confidence, that's what you should do.
yeah, but it's more, it also changes the role of of each of the 600 politicians. Instead of them promoting themselves and their views, they're really promoting, let's all use this unified system with our individual nuance. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you, every other person, you can fire up and use this system too. If you suggest something good or something that calculates out better, I will be notified, guaranteed. It's not, you didn't have to write a letter, you didn't have to make it through any bureaucracy. If you came up with a better solution, it's gonna make it into the core policies, guaranteed.
And you could you could rewrite from the core prompt of the collective wisdom of the elected officials, and they're there and weighted by the will of the people. Um, you could core prompt and say which laws do we need to change to make this happen.
Right. So you could in an afternoon session consider wild sweeping changes that just get a particular outcome, like the ambulance backup problem.
Or it might be, let's have, uh, a budget for Uber, because a lot of the ambulances are just moving people.
Yeah, right. Like
People are
let's
not
let's
actually dying.
yeah,
Um, so
Uber ambulance.
yeah, Uber ambulance. That is a wild idea, man.
So it's sort of like what I'm wondering is we were talking about planning, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like we got to do some planning and pick some things. There are a range of solutions that are quite quickly within grasp that can have a bit more impact or reach than others, right? Like if we made a system that could first of all handle a massive influx of publicity and be like your PR manager for a parliamentary run or politician run, then the advertising for the Dreamcatcher would be wild. And then imagine if that person won. Like, that would be an insane level. But it's not like we got to convince a government party to sign up and use the system. It's like no, we got voted in as the system that assisted this politician that these people voted in. Like that's
So a
news making.
party that is AI backed, um, surely must be more consistent and far more informed and accurate at
But
every
it
stage.
like it wouldn't even be. It'd be like a gorilla versus a child. Like it just wouldn't even be a fight. Like
Yeah.
and it's like and the party policies are like all automated. It's like you don't get to say whatever you want. You stick to the party line that's calculated by this machine. Like the spending. It's always audited. The tasks you're doing. Were you efficient or effective?
And no more making stats up on the fly because nobody has time to go and fact check them.
Yeah.
I'll be up for that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, in terms of cash in the door, that could actually make money early, and then have this wild knock-on thing, right? Because where are the ChatGPT MPs? They're coming. You know they're coming. But people can't stitch together a system that's robust enough and powerful enough to be used to manage a candidacy. But when, right? See, like this thing, I mean, this thing's coming.
Yeah. Well, look at how much dirt they've moved.
This thing's coming. And so, if we went into the realm of... Because to run an effective campaign, it kind of draws on components from a wide number of things that we've already considered, like media management, voice, like customer service calls.
OSINT and
OSINT.
On-prem data. It's the two key parts, isn't it?
Confidentiality.
Data includes your repo of what you've said before, and the decision making behind it.
But it's almost like even planning a campaign is like a range of decisions of like, okay, let's organize this speech at this point, and we think we're going to get this many votes from that. You know, it's like we've got this spending budget for the campaign. Let's vote. You know, let's spend this much on Instagram, this much on newspaper. You know, those types of decisions are hard. Surely an AI campaign manager would be more effective at that.
I do have one example. So in the last general election in the UK, the Liberal Party gained more seats than they have since 1922, I think it is. And they did that by only fielding candidates in constituencies that they thought they could win. I was reading, I'm not sure what the provenance is of this, but it seems plausible that they were using AI in order to say, you know, of the 600 odd constituencies, which ones could we plausibly win, and they only defended those ones, and they got more seats than they have since 1922. So I think certainly in campaign planning, they're already thinking about this sort of thing. Probably not to the level that we're talking about, which is
because what we could do, right? Like, because I've spoken to a number of actual politicians when I was working for these politicians, because politicians are always trying to cut deals with other politicians and other party politicians, right? And so we always end up like talking with more politicians than the ones you immediately serve, right? So what I'm thinking is that we could make a product that we could convince a small number, because the outskirts MPs are always the desperate ones, they're always the innovators, they're always looking for how to break in, how to get in, how to disrupt, right? The incumbents don't give a shit. So you find some of these eager guys and girls, and you say, look, here's a system that does XYZ. It's going to cost you this much, right? And we just charge a reasonable amount, because these campaigns have got a surprising amount of money. Like they have spent...
They usually, for a campaign manager, they take a percentage of the ad spend. Well, certainly in the US.
Right.
Not so much here.
It's different case by case, country by country, but there's a non-zero budget. And the campaign I was working on had a budget of, and this is just little old New Zealand, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it was around about a couple of $1 million, like maybe $3 million for about a maybe a 6-month drive sort of thing. So
Wow.
anyway, my point is that if you came up with a product, a platform that you're like, look, this is going to do a lot of what you're trying to do for your campaign, and you could charge a reasonable rate, a market rate. But what we'd get from that is we'd learn. Like we get paid to learn how to do these things. We get advertising for other, because the point I'm trying to get at, and I'm because I don't know how to say my points clearly, I end up sort of coming at them sideways or reversing into them
No,
or
you're cool,
something.
man. You're
But
cool.
but the point I want to make, if you sold an AI powered platform to a range of different politicians, you would get a surprising amount of convergence as to what the best next steps are between parties of groups of people that traditionally do not converge.
And we'd learn how that could be transposed to other areas like sales, competitive tenders, and so forth, which is effectively what an election is. It's a competitive tender. Anyone can stand, go for it.
Yep,
They got very clear, who wins
yep, that's
by
true.
voting.
That's true. That's
Um,
true.
so it
I
should be
was,
able to.
yeah, I was getting at the fact that we won't be able to get that right first shot, but we can get funded to learn to get it right, and then we can ultimately field like candidates that are all in on AI rather than ones that just used it as a better email system or a better marketing manager system, right?
Mhm.
But you gotta think like we should maybe chart when all the elections around the world are happening in places that are technically advanced, right? Like first world countries, and then we'll be like, well, we can actually sell this product to each of those, to all of those elections, where we're like, here's a system tailored for your local election laws because we did that work to read the rules and shift the system so that we know that your campaign is not breaking the rules, which is a common problem. It's very easy to break the campaign rules,
Mhm.
and we could just roll around the world like there is always an election happening somewhere in the world. There's probably a lot of money to be made from this exact game, let alone the money if a candidate that was friendly to us or native to us actually got to power and started unearthing things within the government itself. Like maybe that's a surprisingly low hanging piece of fruit that wasn't immediately
Mhm.
obvious. And these people spend money
um,
quick because they're in a panic. They're in a hurry. They're like, shit, shit, shit.
uh, um, Now, this is somewhat anecdotal because I don't have too many data points, but I can name one. A man called Rory Stewart here in the UK, who previously ran and failed to be Prime Minister, who I know is highly AI. Now, if he's doing it, you want to bet that a number of others are also dabbling in this, but MPs are not technical, they're not engineers, you don't know, and they're probably doing zero shot, stuff.
Hmm. But
But they,
they also have these data teams or stats teams that work with them, and those all cost salaried money, right? If we could turn up with
right.
an agentic powered data mining team, then those salary caps go. You get way more bang for your buck. And in fact, like we could even sell the same data to multiple parties with their full view because we're like, it's the same data, people. Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Facts are facts.
mm,
I like this idea. Um, Also, I've been watching the screen here and I'm bowled over about how well it's transcribed this conversation, which, we haven't talked over ourselves too much, but I was noticing when I did, it didn't actually transcribe my Yeah, that's right. Um, because it was relevant to the context, so it's doing something
It's
more
doing
than just
something good, right?
transcribing.
Yeah, yeah. It's doing something.
I like the idea of the um, campaigning, and campaigning is a pretty rich area. Um,
Yeah, it's like speed running marketing.
yeah, exactly. Why does it push out those peach balls?
A celebration? Probably the engineers were just happy to get it going.
Fair enough. It just seems to be every now and again. There you go. Yeah, more peach balls. The I think that model of appearing to be incredibly well informed, um, understanding what you've said before, and therefore being consistent, and having the human in the loop is a very powerful pattern that doesn't only apply to politics. I said sales, sure. I can also think boardroom, absolutely.
Yeah,
There's
public
other
company
ways to use
personas,
this.
like the public face of the listed company as a CEO,
Yeah, yeah. It
interviews
seems
on
like a
stage. If you go into interviews and you've got this teleprompter with you, and you're
yeah,
like, look, our product is this intelligence system. I'm using it right now. It Sure, it's using
yeah,
meta glasses, but it's not about that. It's about the depth of the intelligence that this
yeah.
thing
And you
can
go
provide,
AMA guys. Any
right?
questions?
Literally ask
And
me anything.
yeah, I think that's very interesting. I think it's um, there are a number of patterns coming forth from the architecture that we've got that seem to be ripe, and this is one of those patterns that seem to be applicable to a number of different areas. Um, doesn't apply everywhere. Of
Yeah,
course, there will be other patterns.
yeah, I know.
I
It's
don't
just
know.
like it's like what do we do, right? Like we got this thing that turns out to be sort of like a general intelligence platform, and it looks like when I think that general AI is a myth, and I think that it's probably already here, but it's still going to arrive packaged as a platform of sorts, and that platform to us humans is going to look a little bit like the one that we keep talking about making. It's just going to
Yeah,
be that way for I think a long time. It's multi-agent working on vast amounts of files and databases, and then at the end of the day you still have to consume it, so it's going to be like a little text stream and some pictures and some sound, and like that's all it's going to look like, another human.
yeah, and that is the paradigm I keep referring back to, and I think it's held up quite well, which is that you've got a large number of very smart people waiting in the foyer who will pass you slips of information, and they're hearing everything they say. It's
Mm,
like, hey, if you consider that, if you consider
mm.
that, and so your intelligence is, I don't know, n squared, maybe,
more
with the number of,
more
yeah, probably more. Um, well, it'd be more if you get them to talk to each other first as well, which
Yeah,
is what we've
and
got.
then like like we could have friends of ours waiting there listening too. Like if there was a big, like let's say you got on a panel somewhere and you had to do a big talk, I could be sitting there listening in on your
Right.
glasses, right? And so I'm also overseeing the AI swarms, and I'm interjecting and steering as well. And you have a live debate. You could have like you know 500 different people who were all interested in the debate
Can you
chucking in
imagine that?
ideas and stuff.
Can you imagine that? It's like we're going to be talking about these 10 topics, and so you get 10 experts, and each expert has got a team of three to do research for them on the fly and hand it back real time.
Yeah,
There'll be a
right.
skill. There'll be a skill there in being able to um, do the usual social kind of talking
You got to
thing
be cool, you got to
while
look
getting a
nice.
stream. while getting a stream
Yeah,
back, and
yeah.
then thinking yourself, it's like, do I ignore that, or is that a great point?
Right. And then
Um,
so with the meta glasses, you get these hand gestures. And so what you'd want the machine to present to you is options. And with your fingers, you'd be sort of steering by just selecting
that's right.
options
You
that
can
have
do it.
come
It's
up.
like,
You're like, yeah,
yeah,
left,
yeah,
up,
yeah,
right, all that.
yeah.
And then, so what happens? Your campaign head count goes way down. Like, you could basically get to Parliament with two people, like the politician and the spotter, or the. I think you need two. You got to have two because one is just not stable enough.
What's the spotter for then?
The spotter is to um, keep keep both people grounded, because if it's one person versus an AI, the person tends to go a bit crazy, I think. But
I agree with that. Sorry, go ahead.
and also, like, when the social pressure comes on, like going and talking in front of a crowd of 10,000 people is a high pressure thing. You need the spotter there to watch your back, like to make sure that um security is arranged to be looking out for you in all sorts of ways that you can't while your whole focus. It's almost like if you had an AI powered submarine,
Mhm.
you would still want, I believe, a captain and an XO, right? Because the
Hmm.
captain's focus is on the battle and the XO's focus is on the ship, and the ship's putting back a lot of information, like a lot.
That is part of our doctrine. Is we refer to it as the effectively the outside war and the internal war.
You can't fight those both together, and the internal war is largely with the AI subsystems.
Yeah.
And so you need like a bots master that manages the AI swarms, and then you need the captain that's presenting out that the bots are in supporting.
Now we need to be a bit careful here, but I completely agree with you. The reason we need to be careful is um, the collaboration that you and I have had has been the most productive in my life, and um, adding a third person, I think, would make it a debate
It's no,
and actually slow it down.
it's it's only going to be two. It's because of the communication pathways. Like, it's a quorum thing. Like, you can't have BFT faults in a two-party system.
Yes, yes, that is true. But there seems to be something magical about two people.
Yeah, it's stronger than
Um,
it's more than twice as strong as one.
yes, and it's stronger than three as well, I'd argue.
I think so.
This is just my experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then you start arguing the toss, and it's like, okay, well, voting rights and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's two and then lots is really powerful.
Right. Right. And then there's a bit of a dead zone in between. But I guess that there's not really a need for um I guess all I'm saying is two is sufficient. Like, the level of system required to enable two is uh pretty much here now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't know whether there's some kind of fundamental rule there, or as I said, we need to be careful because um, our preference is on that level of collaboration as
I
opposed
I
to 12, you know.
honestly, I think that's it. So you could say to yourself, well, look, there's this is how the budget limits are set for these types of races, and if you've only got two staff,
Yeah.
what's the
But one is very weak because working in a vacuum is
mm,
so fucking hard.
is weird. It's weird. But
Yeah.
two's good. Two's good. It's like, yeah, spotter, sniper.
Yeah, so I think you're right. A political campaign with two people.
So that's like the two-person unicorn, right? Like a one-man unicorn. I don't think that'll ever happen because it's just
I don't think so
too
either.
hard. But two-person
Yeah.
unicorn, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
almost like there'd be more two-person unicorns than three-person unicorns because like two can, like three is not stable compared to two.
Yeah. That's a good point. Stability is
Yeah.
the key point of you might be wrong, but what you don't want to be doing is just, arguing amongst yourselves.
You don't want a split brain, right? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that sounds like yet another option, but I guess what I'm trying to jibe at here is the ergonomics, right? Like the package needs to deliver as a set of glasses. You put it on, you got a teleprompter, you got your biggest screen, you got your VR headset, so you can be mobile. You're going somewhere, you got big amounts of information. You can ask deep queries. You've got real time voice. You should be able to pick up the phone or just chat on your glasses to this bot that we're seeing transcribe here. You've got people helping tune the bots to make sure that they're working effectively as a swarm. You've got your incoming communications like messages, emails, phone calls, all that. But basically, we're trying to make a general assistant, right? Like, we're trying to make this
Right.
immersive technology that's just
Right. And
intelligence
even
everywhere.
it doesn't necessarily need even the glasses because I could easily say, let's in the boardroom context, if you mic'd everyone up and it was getting that additional information
Mm.
for turn taking, and it was doing the background churning, and you had your laptop open,
Yeah, it's not
you get the
really
same thing.
about, yeah, it's we need to be able to support a broad range of modes of information gathering, but we're after a system that can process any modality, any delivery, and then give it back to you any way that you want it. And then we're
Yeah,
saying, okay, what do we do with that system? That's really what we're saying. Because selling it as
right.
like, here's a system that can do everything. It's like no one's gonna buy that. But
Yeah, yeah. No, nobody
it's not.
believes it either.
No, but if we're like, okay, we've got it, and we're gonna start pointing at some very specific things like politics or whatever, that starts to get really fun. I think.
Yeah, because it makes you feel like a genius. Well, you are by comparison to the unenabled
Mm,
person you're talking to. You are a genius.
mm.
Everything you're saying can be fact checked, everything is correct, and it's reasoning in the background, pointing out points maybe you missed, for
Mm.
example, depending on how you
Yeah,
structured
and
the
like
thoughts.
constantly training you with like things like, well, you should not say this word or that word because if someone takes a small snippet of what you said, it can be misconstrued if you say it this way.
Yeah, which I think is probably the bane of most politicians' life, is taking out of context.
Mm.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you recorded everything that you said, then anyone who had a question could come to your system and talk about, um, something they heard, and then you could give a fully in context answer with all. You're like, well, I didn't actually mean that. This is the surrounding conversation. No one likes to be misquoted. Check it out.
Right. And to be a genius really is to be highly um, educated, number one. So by education, I mean the ability to recall the thoughts of others. The second is to be consistent, so you know what you said, so the context of it. And the third one is to be intelligent, and a good deal of that will remain in your brain, but you can be prompted for what you've forgotten because you've got low blood sugar at that point, or you're tired,
I
or
think the key property that a successful a winner of a person needs is judgment, not
yes.
intelligence. Judgment.
Well, I think judgment is exactly what we've been talking about. It's the amalgamation of the entire context in your human brain in a way that you can actually comprehend it without overflowing your own RAM.
Mm.
Because then you can bring in, the more ephemeral things about your experience. I've seen this happen before. This is not a good idea. You can bring in your values. I am left leaning. I am right leaning, and so on. But if you are consistent and you get the access to what you've said before and what everyone else has said and applied to, in the background, do these make sense? Is this guy talking shit to me? And it comes up saying, yes, here's why.
Yeah.
Following fallacies and so on.
Yeah. Fallacy detection, falsehoods, witty comebacks.
Right. And that would be devastating to have at your fingertips, wouldn't it?
Mm. You'd feel like an absolute boss, right? Like you'd walk in to an interview or a meeting, you'd never have to prepare beforehand.
Yeah, you'd be like that dude on
Limitless.
at the end. When he had
Yeah, he'd figured out how to do
everything at his fingertips, and he could predict that van was going to crash, and he's just like, hey, you're dumb monkey brain. I've got something else.
it. And then he went into politics.
And then, well, the ... at the end of the film, of course, was he ended up as president. Interesting. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll get this thing done. It's very frustrating that it isn't done yet, but it feels like there's nothing implausible about it. There's nothing faulty about it. It's just buggy and bloated. Like I just have to pick through the code.
Well, my highlight on this call today was you pointing at the redaction step and the use of judgment and the importance of judgment. I think there, as we were talking about for a good half hour, I'll not go over it, but I think there's something really important there. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know how to codify it, but it feels like there's something that we need to understand there. But again, not right now because, we've got a shortening runway, or rather, more optimistically, we're proceeding at pace towards rotation speed along the runway.
All right, I'll stop recording, huh?
Yeah.